Hi, this is János, it's Revered Audio, and I'm going to look into something which on everyone's mind. And Asad Abbas Mirza wrote me a comment about it. Thank you. I see that you've been sharing a lot of comments. I try to answer as much as I can, and I thought I'd start with this. And so his observation is that, I'm just going to read it out, low power tube amps have lesser bass. So even with high efficiency, it is recommended to have a bit higher power amplifier, as at lower, lesser volumes, the bass is sacrificed. I experienced it with louder. And my observation on it that, yes, I totally agree with you that when we take commercial amplifiers, low power tube amplifiers that you can get, and compare high-ish power, medium power or flea power, or maybe low power or flea power, as we go down the power scale, the amount of bass they can reproduce is just evaporating. And I can confirm that. So for example, if you get like a Quicksilver, just higher power Quicksilver tube amps, and like for example the Russian tube one, the 6 P33P tube or C33C tube, those just create prodigious amount of bass at any listening volume with any loudspeaker, from high efficiency speakers to low efficiency loudspeakers, even current hungry loudspeakers, and then they are quite high power tube amps. And when we compare them to some flea power or even low power like a 2A3 amp or a 300B amplifier, they put out a lot less bass with any kind of loudspeaker. That when you swap between these two amps, the difference will be enormous. Sometimes the difference will be just big, but depending on the room, the difference can be enormous. However, what I want to talk about it, and why I thought we might expand on this subject, is because the difference that we see is not because of the wattage. It's not the rated power. The difference comes mainly from two things. Number one, size of the output transformer. So the flea power or low power amplifier has less bass, not because it has less power, especially when you play at low power volume where even the low power amp is not pushed. The bass is not disappearing because it does not have enough watts. So if we are tasking both of them to play at like 300 milliwatts total, it doesn't stress out the low power, not even a flea power tube amp at all. But even in that case, we are seeing that low power tube amp has negligible bass response compared to the high power tube amp. Why is that? So I'm going to get into that right now, and I'm going to show you with numbers and measurements what makes the difference. So we are going to go to Hashimoto's website. They make very nice quality, high quality output transformers. So if you want a nice tube amplifier, then these transformers are a really nice choice. They are reasonably priced. Yeah, they are super duper expensive, and even myself can't really afford to get them on a large scale. So like on that little amplifier, I currently have 0 Hashimoto transformers, just cheapo Hammond transformers. But I'm now with the help of Buy Me a Coffee, I'm going to slightly elevate the quality of transformers I'm using in them, and will share the experiences with you. And so right now I'm going to show Hashimoto, because I'm now taking out of the consideration one aspect from comparing a low power amplifier to a high power amplifier, and that aspect is the quality of the output transformer. So let's say that we are comparing a high power, high-ish power single-ended tube amplifier with a low power single-ended tube amplifier, and both of them are using Hashimoto transformers, so they have the same quality, and so that's not a consideration why one has less bass than the other. Both are fine output transformers. So what's the difference? Why is the low power going to have much less bass compared to the one that is higher power? Look at that. So when we are looking at an output transformer, so actually the top begins with the push-pull output transformers, and when we see like 100-watt rating push-pull output transformer, the frequency response specified for the unit goes down to 10 Hertz within 1 dB. So it means that it just puts out the bass down to 10 Hertz without noticeable losses. And that's just crazy. So it means that whatever bass response you have down to 10 Hertz is going to be quite accurately represented, and you won't have losses in that region. Now let's just scroll down and have a look at the single-ended output transformers. So here now we went down to a 30-watt transformer, so it's like a third of the wattage compared to the previous one, and now you see that the frequency response is specified within plus minus 2 dB, so now it drops quite a bit more, but even so down to 25 Hertz. So instead of 10 Hertz, now we have serious losses starting, well, not serious, but noticeable losses starting at 25 Hertz. And that's one consideration that people notice between like push-pull and single-ended, that push-pull amplifier tends to have stronger bass a lot because of this, because there we're using a 100-watt rated transformer that is lossless down to 10 Hertz, and now we have a third of the wattage transformer that's lossless only to more than an octave above, down to 25 Hertz. That's a big difference, very big difference, and you are going to notice it. So this iron is rated at 30 watts. So basically you are using tubes like a PX25, UX50, or something like maybe like a 300B would have an output transformer of this wattage. And now let's say that you have like a medium-ish output or a high single-ended amplifier using this 30-watt iron, then you have this nice frequency extension down to 25 Hertz. Now let's look at the low power equivalent. So if you would get a low power or free power amplifier, and that would use its counterpart, let's scroll down here, here it is, yep, this is the same 5K load and only at 7 watt. So you see, from 30 we are dropping down to 7 watt, and here the frequency response is specified only to 45 Hertz and plus minus 3 dB. So it's losing even more. So essentially like 25 dB at 25 Hertz, 2 dB loss for the 30 watt iron, and here sorry, I should be showing the other way around. So 30 watt iron 2 dB loss, 7 watt iron 3 dB loss at almost twice the frequency. So basically we have lost an octave of low bass, of deep bass, compared to the higher power transformer. And this is the main reason why low power amplifiers seem to have less bass than higher power cousins, even when we play them lower, because they roll off much sooner. And the way you can combat it is when you have that low power amplifier. So for example here they recommend it for the tube type 71A, which would be less than 1 watt output power. But and then sure, you could build it with that and it would be totally fine. But if you would use build a 71A amplifier, not with the 7 watt iron, but with this big 30 watt iron, you would have 1 octave less, lower frequency response, 1 octave more bass from that 71A. So when people complain, 71A amp, free power amp, doesn't go as deep as my PX25 or my 2A3 or 300B, it's not because the tube 71A is wimpy, it's because the transformers we are using for them, they cut off 1 octave earlier. And I can totally confirm that, because this is what I'm doing at home with my 1.2 watt output single-ended amplifier. So it's just a smidgen above 1 watt output, but I'm using a 30 watt rated output transformer. And at low volumes it has better bass than my 20 watt push-pull amplifier, push-pull tube amplifier, and better bass than a class A 50 watt per channel Michael Yee PA1 solid state amplifier, even though it's just 1.2 watts per channel. And subjectively what I feel is the more gripping, more capable, more emotional, more liquid, more fluid bass that reaches down to much softer volumes than what the higher power solid state amplifier can do. And when I compared it to what the Quicksilver can do, which is like 350 watts, that's just a lot of beefcake there. And yeah, that feels like grips a lot, but it kind of feels compared to that low power single-ended bass. If I compare the quality that I get from there, that liquid, it's kind of like you are in life, enveloped by life, and it's coming, kind of like sipping a cup of fine tea, cup of white tea, and when I change it, same speaker, to the Conrad Johnson, turn it down to the volume, it's like someone is trying to force down a gallon of tar on my throat. It's not, it doesn't taste good, and I'm just choking in it, but there's no nuance, no finesse, there's no control over it. It's just like someone's trying to put a straitjacket and forcing the sound into an envelope, and it's really overdone, but the deep bass is not there. It's not caressing me. It doesn't come alive. It doesn't have dimensionality. It's not in the space. It's not a spatial event. It's just something flat, which is just bass. And with that low power amplifier, with the huge output transformer, it is liquid. It's part of life, part of music, so much more dimensional, so much beauty in it. And the secret for that is to have a really big, nice, oversized output transformer, and that will let your bass come really, really liquid, really effortless, really lossless. And eventually, if you would be using the same output transformer for an amplifier that would be pushing it to a limit, let's say you have like a 15 watt or 20 watt output, that high output single-ended triode amplifier using this 30 watt rated iron, it still has like 10 more watt headroom. But if you want to go into like a 20 watt output region, you have to push like 100 milliamps of current, quiescent current through the amp, which is going to magnetize a lot of the magnetic capability of this iron. And when that happens, actually the bandwidth decreases. So you have less base available. And when I have that, like my 1.2 watt amplifier, the quiescent current that the tubes draw is 26 milliamps. That's almost nothing. And let's see how, I don't have this iron, but something similar. So maybe let's go back. I didn't go where I wanted to go. Here. Can we find what I'm looking for? So actually, primary inductance. So when you see this sheet, the figures that they show what is the loss, they specify it at an 80 milliamps current. If you decrease the 80 milliamps, this is going to look nicer because there's much more material that is not, where the grains are not oriented by that quiescent current. It has not eaten up into the reserves, into the magnetic reserves of your transformer. So you have that much more that you can use for the base extension. You can go much lower. So the losses, if you would just use like a third of the current that you are using now, you would have quite a bit more base available for you. And that's I think that what I found for myself is a phenomenal strategy, that just go oversize your transformer. So like in my case, I oversize it like 25 times compared to the needs that I want. And actually my iron is gapped at 120 milliamps or 150 milliamps. So I'm using just a fraction of that allowed magnetic capability. So basically I'm using maybe pushing that iron maybe like 1/40th or 1/50th or even less than that of what it's capable of. So I have just absolutely monumental, tremendous headroom. And your only cost of that is that these bigger iron cost a whole lot more than the small ones. So that's why you will never ever see this done in a commercial amplifier. So in a commercial free power amplifier, you are never going to see these kind of transformers. You are going to see the babies, the cheapos. Look at the deck version. It might be a really nice amp, but look at the size of the output transformer. It's like a cricket has a bigger, I don't know what, private part or what, than those output transformers. And just imagine, like when you have like a big output transformer, then you have a lot of magnetizable material that is capable to conduct, transmit base. And the deeper we go in the frequencies, the more magnetizable material, the more magnetic, the more lamination, the more core we need to support magnetically the transfer of those low frequencies. So I think that's my little sharing about it, what I have experienced myself with the amplifiers, that it's really not the low power that is the limit. The number one limitation is the output transformer, and if you are to use the same output transformer in a free power amp that you use in a higher power version, you will, at low volumes, you will get even better base response because you have more of headroom available for you for the output transformer. And the second criteria, I'm not going to show any figures for that, is the power supply. So the second reason why in the commercial amplifiers you are going to hear better bass at low volumes is because with that higher power commercial tube amplifier you have a power supply that is capable of supplying way more current than what your flea power or low power amplifier's power supply can supply. And that's just the unfortunate scenario that when commercially they want to make a low power amplifier viable, they just shrink the power supply down as much as possible to make it cheaper, more affordable to buy. But that's not the way to go. The way to properly evaluate and have a proper low power or flea power amplifier is to give it all the chance with a really beefy, powerful power supply. And that's what I'm doing with my single-handed amplifier, the 1.2 watt per channel. It has a power supply that would easily supply a 200 watt per channel triode, single-handed triode amplifier. And I'm tasking it to give like less than 0.5%. So doesn't matter what volume I'm listening to, it essentially has limitless supply. But that's not what you are going to get commercially. You are going to get commercially a tiny baby cricket power supply with a low power amplifier that can barely squeeze in enough juice. And once you turn down your volume, or at any volume, we don't even need to turn down the volume, at any volume, if you have like one amplifier that has a size X power supply and your other amplifier has 10 times that big power supply, so it can supply 10 times the current, then essentially the one that can supply 10 times the current can keep its operational stability, that dynamic, that impact, that bass response 3 octaves lower than the one that is starving. So that's another reason why low power commercial tube amps tend to suck with bass at low volumes, because they don't have the power supply and they don't have the transformer. So when we have these two huge constraints, one at the beginning, which is the power supply that's supposed to supply the unmodulated signal, and then the output transformer, which is it's your gearbox, the transmission, the shift, like in the race car. You have the transmission so that your power is going to get at an optimal torque to the wheels. That's what the output transformer is for. And basically this is kind of like an equivalent of a transmission box that can output power at really low RPM. So when the car is just starting to accelerate, it's kind of maybe a good or maybe a bad analogy for low frequency bass response, bass waves. So I think that's it. That's my short question in a very long way. I hope it was kind of useful and visual and helpful for everyone. So for those of you who want to build an amplifier and looking for the output power, output wattage, this is, I think, one of the most critical thing about it, because if you do it yourself, if you build it for yourself, you are the one who are in control of everything, how you envision it, what you want to realize, to turn into realization. Then this is something key, something vital. I think maybe I should do a whole little video about these things, that if you want to build a tube amplifier for yourself, what are the design considerations that you should look into, depending on like what kind of speakers you have and what is the SPL that you are listening to, how loud you want to listen to. And maybe that would be actually a nice series. It would be a long series. So if anyone is interested in that, just let me know. and I hope I will get cracking on it real soon. So thank you for this wonderful question. I hope it was really edifying for everyone, and put down your comments. What do you think about it? What were your experiences? Bye bye.